Oh my goodness, I have no audio. Thank you to the comment section for actually talking to me. And yeah, I was talking about Kyle Larson this whole time. I was talking about the entire race, the whole results and everything. And then, somebody in the live chat had to break the news that I wasn't working. So I thank you for that. My mic is actually working now, and I guess that was all preparation to talk for Xfinity Series. But of course, Kyle Larson, I don't need to do too much explaining of what happened yesterday. He pretty much won that race. He pretty much won that race in dominant fashion like last week. You really didn't have to watch too much of the race other than if you were a Ryan Blaney fan. It didn't work out too well for you, or Keselowski, Logano, Kyle Busch. I think, of course, with Kyle Larson's 2 wins, he's good to go in the championship 4. Really, the focus for that team is just going to be Phoenix. Get the job done because he's been so good this year. That brings us to our second place driver. Once again, I know this time I'm not talking to myself anymore because my mic is working, but Chase Elliott is second in the championship with 34 points above the cut line. You can lose 34 points quickly, too. I don't want to get fooled by that number, as, of course, Denny Hamlin's in that same situation, and both these drivers are very good at Martinsville and short tracks in general. Second and third seeds look all right based off points alone, but fourth in the championship standings is where things get spicy. And Kyle Busch is just 1 point above the cut line. Now, Kyle Busch, he's got to hope that either he wins, which has happened before at Martinsville, or that he can point his way in and hope for another Larson dominating win. Can't have any promises in the NASCAR Cup Series, but one thing's for sure, the battle for that final spot will be brewing to the end of that race. Those 500 laps at Martinsville, it will come down to that fourth and final seed. Ryan Blaney lost big in Sunday's race. At Kansas, now Ryan Blaney is 1 point beneath the cut line. And, I mean, we have not seen him do much really on the short tracks in the Cup Series. I don't think he's won on a short track in the Cup Series ever. He better adapt well to Martinsville Speedway when the green flag drops. But I'm looking at sixth place right here. That's Martin Truex Jr. He's 3 points beneath the cut line, and I think Martin Truex Jr. is someone you got to worry about if you're Kyle Busch. Yeah, worry about your own teammate. Martin Truex Jr., he is a star at Martinsville Speedway. I think he's won the 2 of the last 3 races at Martinsville. Actually, 3 of the last 4. I can't even count how many times he's won anymore. Especially since he joined Joe Gibbs Racing, he started tearing up the short tracks. But Brad Keselowski is not gone yet from this. I think if Brad can get himself a win at Martinsville, it would really do him well. Unfortunately, however, based off of Brad's stats on short tracks, we're not talking about Bristol being the cutoff race. If it were Bristol, I'd say, yeah, look out for Brad, but that's not the case. And Joey Logano, we've seen him in this position before. In 2018, he had to muscle his way around Martin Truex Jr., which, whether you liked it or not, he did exactly what he needed to do to get that place get himself a place in the championship 4, and did just that. Ended up winning the championship that same year, 2018. Well, Logano's minus 26. It's not impossible for him to get in based off of points, but looking at the competitors he's facing, the odds are really against him for him to point in to this championship 4, if at all. He might just have to win this race outright. But what I see here that's very interesting is, of course, Larson in Cloud 9. He's been in Cloud 9 for like the last 2-3 weeks. Doesn't have to worry anymore about, racing, and he's just had to worry about Phoenix and keeping the tone high for the team, the 5 team at Hendrick Motorsports. And let's give a good give some credits to Hendrick Motorsports, and I'm just happy that Kyle chose October 24th in Kansas Speedway to get that win. As you know, 17 years ago, on this past weekend, 17 years ago, tragedy struck the Hendrick Motorsports team, where members of the Hendrick Motorsports team in the plane that flew to Martinsville crashed entering the speedway during a active Cup Series race. Actually, they didn't crash at the speedway. It was like near, where they were trying to go to on the way to bring members of the team and the family to Hendrick Motorsports. And unfortunately, there were no survivors. And Ricky Hendrick was just a young businessman, former driver already, and he had a possible yearning to be a part of the business of NASCAR like his father, Rick, has done for all these years successfully, and unfortunately, his life was taken far too short. And drove, ironically, 20 years ago in the inaugural Truck Series race at Kansas, a number 17, a blue and white decorated 17 Chevrolet to victory lane with GMAC as the sponsor. And if you look at Kyle Larson's number 5, and of course the blue and white colors of HendrickCars.com, it pays homage to the late Ricky Hendrick. Seeing Larson win there with those colors on that day and at that track, it was a very special moment for the Hendrick Motorsports team and, of course, the Hendrick family. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Cup Series later on in the podcast. Let's go on to explain Xfinity, but one more thing I was going to say is big shout out to Parker Kligerman, top 20 in a one-off race, first race since Texas of 2019, jumps into a Cup Series car, cold turkey, and brings it home top 20, and he's driving for Gone Brothers Racing, mind you. That's an impressive accolade for sure. All right, let's move on to the NASCAR Xfinity Series. If my cam is off, don't get mad. It's just me. There's nothing better to look at than a blank camera. So what? Let's here, Xfinity Series. Of course, likewise to the Cup Series, the second to final race before their penultimate round, which closes out the round of 8, Kansas Speedway for 300 miles. Get ready for Ty Gibbs. I think boy, he's pretty much breaking all the records that were set by Joey Logano when Logano was a teenager. But at this point, Ty Gibbs, forget the last name, please. I know people are going to say, well, Ty Gibbs, he's part of the Gibbs family. Joe Gibbs getting money. Grandpa got him money. I see you, Facebook. You guys get some more brain cells before you comment? I don't know. I mean, clearly, let's be fair. Coy Gibbs and, of course, the father of Ty Gibbs, Coy, and Ty Gibbs' late uncle, J.D. Gibbs, both had brief NASCAR careers in the lower series, and they were bad. I mean, horrible. In the 90s and 2000s, J.D. and Coy Gibbs just learned very quickly and the hard way that they were just not made to race in NASCAR. And plus, they were older in age, too. Like, thinking about how mature they were, like in their, 20s or 30s, they were racing in those levels and hardly got any top 10s and whatnot. I'm not going to go dig their stats, but the point I'm trying to make is that they drove the same kind of equipment that was provided by the family team, Joe Gibbs Racing, that Ty Gibbs is driving today. Of course, Ty Gibbs, unlike his father and uncle when they drove in the lower series of NASCAR, he was 18, turning 19 this year, and got himself 4 Xfinity Series wins. Now, that's impressive by any means that he's driving. He looks like he's been in the Cup Series the way he drives. I know, of course, he's got a long ways to go before he gets to that potential if that's the career path he wants to take. But Ty Gibbs drove the wheels off that 54 Toyota on Saturday's Xfinity race. I mean, he drove it like a veteran. Every race that Ty Gibbs runs, he seems like he's just been more impressive and impressive by the minute. This kid, I think he might be ready for a Cup in 2-3 years, if not sooner. I wouldn't want that to happen, however, because, you guys heard my takes on how drivers getting jumped is just not a favorable move, in my opinion. And it can go sour if it doesn't pan out. But the guy had a struggling car early race. He didn't total it. He didn't throw everything out the window just to, pass 1 or 2 cars with the struggling handling car. He stayed poised, made those adjustments that helped keep the car running smoother, and got himself a win. He only had to lead the final 14 laps. started in the 10th spot. It's his 4th career win, and I think that's the 9th win for Joe Gibbs Racing's number 54 entry, which, by the way, they're going to compete in that championship for the owner's title come Phoenix in 2 weeks. That is a stellar effort by Ty Gibbs, who hasn't even experienced the years that is needed for cultivation in this world of motorsports. He's going to be around for a long time, and I think a lot of drivers are going to watch out for him because he's going to be something special. And you know what? I think that NASCAR might not even needs to be the only route Ty Gibbs goes, but let some time pass. He's got time on his side. Austin Cindric, the defending champion, who won stage 2, started second, led for 151 laps, but the tires just couldn't last. 3rd place went to AJ Allmendinger. AJ won stage 1. Those stage points have really helped him through the entire season this year. AJ led for 10 laps, so you can see how the strategies worked out for Colleague Racing to put AJ in a position to win those stages. And he started 5th. A 3rd place effort for Allmendinger, who entered this race in the points lead. 4th place, Justin Haley. Great points day for Haley, trying to get himself into the championship 4. Give a call to Ryan Sieg here, who finished in the 5th spot. I know the sunset's doing weird things to the camera, so enjoy it while it lasts. But Ryan Sieg's first year in Ford has been a struggling one, as well as some business changes that were made for his own team, because he's owner driver RSS Racing. Sold a few of his Chevys and try to work with a Ford and get factory support from them. It didn't work out too easily, but a 5th place run this year is going to be satisfying one for Ryan Sieg. And kudos to the veteran. He started 14th. Brent Moffett for Our Motorsports finished in the 5th spot. And now Brent Moffett, of course, he won the Truck Series race at Kansas a year ago, so he knows his way around this track very well. Our Motorsports is a team you guys should be excited for next year. They have a lot of good resources coming in the system, and I like that they're using veteran drivers to help cultivate the team, and even some younger ones too, like Blaine Perkins, who got himself a stage win at Talladega on the in the Let's Go Brandon 300. Okay, better stop. 7th place, Michael Annett in his 3rd to final race as a full-time driving the Xfinity Series. Nice, well-respectable effort for Annett. Sam Mayer finished in the 8th spot. Now, without some controversy, he started P12. Justin Allgaier survived to finish 9th in the race. He started 3rd. He might be a key factor heading into Martinsville. We'll talk about the playoffs after I go through these results. And Mike Snyder, who led 1 lap and started at P15, rounded out the top 10. It has been an up-and-down day for Joe Gibbs Racing because all 4 of the cars are racing for something. Besides the 54's Owners Championship, we do have the 18, the 20, and the 19 for the Drivers' Championship. Brandon Jones finished 11th. Daniel Hemrick, who started first and led the opening 15 laps, was involved in an accident and recovered to finish P15. Definitely not the run he was expecting. How about some other drivers here? Patrick Emmeling's career best finish of 24th. Good run for the modified regular. Harrison Burton, unfortunately, and Noah Gragson were collected in an accident on the front stretch, which resulted in the drivers finishing 34th and 35th out of the race, and now in a deep hole in this championship fight. Now, let me explain why Sam Mayer was under some hot water from the press and the critics alike. Well, Sam Mayer, I think it was about 30 to go, can't remember when, was, just naturally racing with Harrison Burton and Noah Gragson. Mayer's not contending for a championship, but he clipped the corner panel, I believe it was Gragson's car, or Harrison Burton, and then caused a chain reaction crash and took both Burton and Gragson out of the race. It was a racing deal. He did nothing wrong. Let's just get that straight. So, with 1 race remaining in the round of 8 in this championship playoffs for the NASCAR Xfinity Series, unlike the Cup Series, there is going to be some more breathing room that these drivers will will get to enjoy going to Martinsville. Austin Cindric and AJ Allmendinger are actually tied for first and second with 3-1-3-9 on the points board, plus 47 above the cut line for both drivers. That means they can likely and understandably clinch their way into the championship throughout the process of the race. If there are a lot of retirements, I mean, I think 48 points, I think is the most you could get in a cup race today, or in a top 3 NASCAR race, considering how many the points you earn is 48 points. Depending on how many cars are retired during the duration of the race, they can clinch in the middle of the race, or stage points, you can clinch there. Those two are kind of in a different cloud because seeds 3 and 4 is a different story. Justin Allgaier, veterans Justin Allgaier and Daniel Hemrick are 3rd and 4th. See, Allgaier's plus 9 above the cut line, but Hemrick is plus 7 above the cut line. 4th and final driver. What does this mean? 5th place, Justin Haley, minus 7 from the cut line. However, from 6th on back, it gets pretty far-fetched, and I think not 7th. 8th place will have to win it. Noah Gragson minus 24 from the cut line. He could point his way in, but that's a tall order. Brandon Jones can still mathematically point in, but most likely he's going to have to find a way to win this race outright, which may or may not be a tall order depending on his record on short tracks. And Harrison Burton, well, for you Harrison Burton fans, I think you guys should be in good spirits because Harrison won last year's race at Martinsville Speedway. It's his home track. He's minus 51 beneath the cut line, but here's the problem. He has to win it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If he does not win at Martinsville Speedway, there is no championship for Harrison Burton. And if, now mind you, if anyone outside of the top 4 win at Martinsville, Justin Haley, Noah Gragson, Brandon Jones, Harrison Burton, or excluding Justin Haley, because I'm going to put him in as an example. Let's say Gragson, Brandon Jones, and Harrison Burton win at Martinsville. The battle for the final cutoff spot becomes nullified. When you win, you're in, and all the positions and points go knock down one spot from where the winner placed himself at. So Hemrick would be in danger of that. Justin Haley could be in danger. Sure, Daniel Hemrick's very good on the short tracks. He's where he came from. I think Daniel Hemrick's a good contender to win this race. He might have to fight his own in-house teammate of Harrison Burton to do it. And Noah Gragson's a great short track driver. I'm speaking too fast. Short track driver. He's won Snowball Derby. That's a tough race to win, so just consider that. 250 laps of Martinsville will decide the seeding for the 2021 NASCAR Xfinity Series Championship 4. We're going to discuss a little more about that later in the podcast, and I think it's time to talk some F1. Wow, that F1 race, I'm going to say that was, in my opinion, that was race of the year, and I'll explain why that is. Let's proceed with that, shall we? The Aramco United States Grand Prix, round 17 of 22 in this World Championship for Formula One. And I have to say, it was race of the year for many reasons. I'm going to explain reasoning number one. We had the highest attendance of 400,000 estimated were on hand in Austin, Texas at Circuit of the Americas. And it happened in a global pandemic that wiped off this event last year. They could not even cross west of the Atlantic Ocean in 2020. It's the first time they've done it since 2019 in Brazil. So you can tell how much these fans, especially in the regions of Austin, Texas, because if you think about it, it's not that far from Mexico City, which hosts the Mexican Grand Prix, the venue following the U.S. Grand Prix that happened this past weekend. Actually, that race is in 2 weeks, Mexico. So that's like times 2 of venues and closeness to being able to attend one of these high pricey Formula One Grand Prix. So they had to wait 2 years for this, pretty much. I know a lot of people that actually go to both Grand Prix, U.S. and Mexico area. Some even go to Canada in June, when they, of course, in 2019 when they had one. And I'm sure a few of those people might even add Miami to the list next year. So if F1 is winning in America, and if that's what your case may be, whether or not Netflix has something to do with it, then guess what? You're right. F1 is winning in America. The crowd didn't lie to you. They were very passionate for their drivers. It's a global sport. I know it's different than most American motorsports and how everything, business side and everything goes together, but that's just what makes F1 beautiful, I guess. Maybe it's the imperfections of the foreign nature of business and politics that put this all together. Well, there was a race. Let's talk about that. Super Max, I put him in the title. I put that name in there for a reason. Max Verstappen made a serious statement in this year's World Championship. Again, in the U.S. Grand Prix. And I'll explain why. This was not Verstappen's race to win it. We go back maybe a few years ago, because let's just consider that this is Hamilton's best venue. Not even track. I mean, outside of Silverstone, of course. But this is Verstappen defying Hamilton's home playground, or one of his playgrounds. He did this in France in 2021, this year. He took advantage of some of Lewis's best tracks, and this, of course, is no exception. Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes, and Red Bull came prepared to put this on together for Max, and leading 35 laps of the 53-lap Grand Prix, getting his 12th career pole. And not only that, he had to fight his way to get the lead and to keep it. And the Red Bull guys were put under a lot of pressure to dot their I's and cross their T's. And they still won this Grand Prix, and they won it by, I think, about a second, just over or under a second. It was actually 1.3 was the margin of victory. And that gap kept closing and closing towards the end of the race. And we've seen how Lewis has done this before with the guys at Mercedes in their late stop strategies to make up a lot of track time and use the newer tires to their advantage, get that fast slap point, which is what Lewis did. But Max would not let him by. Max Verstappen held him off like a true champion. That's a world championship drive right there. And there's a reason why he's won 8 times this year, I think. Yeah, 7 times. 7 times he's won this year. And just to look at what happened in the race today, or on Sunday. I don't know why it's today. It feels like today, but that Max Verstappen held his ground, and we've seen how when Max and Lewis get together, even in free practice 1 or 2, I forgot what it was, they were like very close with the wheels on the front stretch. I don't know why, but Great Britain happened. We're not going to go talk about Silverstone. I think everybody knows why. Then, of course, Italy happened, and the Monza tangle up. Verstappen, he's put his foot to the ground, I think, and if anything, Red Bull, they're ready. They're really ready. Like I knew it was a matter of time till Max Verstappen would be in form of a championship season, because leading up to this year, he's never won more than 3 times in one season, and how he held off Lewis Hamilton was like something I've never seen Max do before, in that fashion. Hamilton with the fastest lap, it looked like it was expected. We saw this in Portimao. Hamilton, the Portuguese Grand Prix, took that extra stop for tires, and once he caught Verstappen, he passed right through, right by him. Never looked back. Same thing happened at Silverstone, but with Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari camp. He still managed to pass Leclerc in closing laps and win the British Grand Prix. Hamilton could not do what he's used to succeeding at on Sunday's race, and that was impressive move. That's why Verstappen got his 18th career win and his 55th career podium. Let's move on to second in the race. Of course, Lewis Hamilton is 177th career podium. He led the other 21 laps of the race, got himself the extra point for the fastest lap. Great effort. And by the way, let's give a call to Checo. Why not? Sergio Perez did the entire Grand Prix without the ability to get himself water. Could not hydrate himself in I forgot the name of the technology that is used to hydrate drivers while in the cars. I know I should know these terms by now, but he could not keep himself hydrated. There were no fluids going into Checo's system. And it was a hot day on Sunday. It was very humid. I mean, the fans had a hard time keeping their shirts from turning into a pool of sweat. I mean, as if, they're sitting there drinking water all day outside in Austin, Texas. But you're in the race car pulling G's in the corners like that and hitting top speeds the way that Sergio does best. And mind you, he survived that race. And a lot of drivers pass out sometimes because they can't get themselves hydrated enough. And when he admitted in the post-race interview that he could not get himself hydrated, that was just shows you that how much it takes that these drivers are athletes. And it just bothers me when people say that these drivers are not athletes, because they are the definition of an athlete. You can't just get into a car and drive to first place and nobody's out there to help you. You're on your own once you get in the race car and the lights go off. And not to mention, he's also racing to help Max Verstappen win this world championship. That's why he got himself the podium for the 14th time in his career. And Sergio Perez, in fact, he got a lot of ovation from the crowd. I mean, this is kind of like a home race to him as well. Like I mentioned, he is from Mexico. And a lot of fans were worried whether or not they would see Sergio Perez back in Formula One again. This time, a whole year ago, we didn't know if he was going to even have a ride in F1. And, of course, he got that first win at Sakir, and then followed it up with his first win at Red Bull at Azerbaijan. Red Bull getting double points and a double podium, their 200th podium appearance ever. Congratulations to the guys at Red Bull. Well-deserved effort. Fourth place, Charles Leclerc gets some nice points after starting in the fourth place spot. How about Daniel Ricciardo starting in fifth? He had a hell of a weekend on and off the track. Avid lover of this country. Yes, despite the fact that he's from Australia, he grew up watching NASCAR as an avid Dale Earnhardt fan in his heyday. Still has a lot of memories from the time that Dale Earnhardt was around, of course, being 20 plus years ago and when he was a kid. So that's why his personal number was 3. Zach Brown gave him an opportunity of a lifetime. It was just a nice treat when Zach Brown, who owns one of Dale Earnhardt's old NASCAR Winston Cup cars, brought it out to the track for Daniel Ricciardo to drive a few laps around the Circuit of the Americas circuit in Dale Earnhardt's number 3, 1984 Chevrolet Monte Carlo. I thought it was just so cool to see Daniel Ricciardo. He looked like a kid in a candy shop. He was just a marvelous moment. But Ricciardo worked hard in the race too. And that's why he got himself a 5th place finish. Great run for the McLaren driver. 6th place, Valtteri Bottas. Started 9th, had another grid penalty for engine-related reasons. So I guess the power unit had to change. I think it's like a 6th this year. Got himself in the 6th place finish. Mercedes get double points. Carlos Sainz Jr. gets Ferrari double points finish. He started 5th, finished 7th. 8th place went to Lando Norris. McLaren, once again, double points. This fight for 3rd in the World Constructors Championship might just come down to the very end with how it has gone this year. How about Yuki Tsunoda getting some points? It's been a long time coming. I know he's got points earlier this year, but he's been in a little bit of a slump. I mean, rookies will always go through this. No matter how good or bad you'll eventually be in the sport, you're still a rookie, and he's learning a lot of the lessons in Formula One this year. And nice to see that Yuki got a 9th place finish after starting P10 at a very solid Grand Prix. And Sebastian Vettel getting that final point. That's a very nice sight to see, because Aston Martin, they have been trailing in the points grabbing hunt. Okay, now who falls short of the points on Sunday's United States Grand Prix in Austin, Texas? Well, Antonio Giovinazzi 1 spot short. I know the Alfa Romeo driver felt shy, and we're going to talk a little bit about Alfa for other reasons in a minute. I'll bring that up after reading out the points, but let's continue on. Lance Stroll, I guess somewhat of a home race. A lot of his friends and family from Montreal came down to the States to watch their driver, Lance Stroll, race. Was involved in an early race accident with, ironically, fellow Canadian Nicholas Latifi, but Stroll did manage to bring it home in the 12th place position. Kimi Räikkönen in his final United States Grand Prix as a Formula One driver finished in the 13th place position, and he received a lot of standing ovations from the crowd. And my gosh, there was a point in the race where he and Fernando Alonso, two rookies from 2001, 20 years ago, they were going neck and neck. I know it was outside the points positions, but that was some of the finest stuff to see. It just put a smile on my face to see the two longest veterans in the sport that have been in through multiple eras at this point of Formula One, that they still had the competitive nature in them to fight for every position out there. That was just some just great stuff to see. I think this is exactly why the fans made all the efforts to show up for this race. George Russell had to start 20th with a grid penalty and never recovered, finishing 14th in front of teammate Nicholas Latifi from Canada. Started in 14th and finished 15th, behind 1 spot behind his Williams teammate. And then, of course, the American team. Haas F1's 2 rookies, Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin. Schumacher started and finished 16th. Mazepin started and finished in 17th in their first home race for the constructor as Formula One drivers in Haas F1 equipment. Fernando Alonso started 19th with a grid penalty. A lot of drivers had grid penalties this past weekend. Had a wing failure on lap 49 that took him out of the race. Esteban Ocon lasted 40 laps and retired after starting 11th due to a mechanical failure. And Pierre Gasly, with a suspension failure, had issues even just getting the car fired up, and it lasted him 14 laps. He started a P8. So 1 week off, come back to Mexico City. They go for the Mexican Grand Prix at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, the track named after the late talents that were taken too soon of Ricardo and Pedro Rodriguez. Pedro Rodriguez, of course, until 2020 was the one and only driver from Mexico to win a Formula One Grand Prix. He won 2 races, of course, and of course that stretch from 1970 came to an end when Sergio Perez won last year at Sakir in the Sakir Grand Prix. So yeah, there was a lot of reasons to be happy for from this past race, and I'm sure it was just great to see F1 back in our home country and getting to see it happen twice next year. Canada will be back, Mexico will be back in 2022, Miami next year. For the first time ever. Being an American F1 fan, there's no better time right now in the 21st century than now to be a fan of Formula One in America. I'm going to hold on to that because we need to talk about the World Drivers' Championship and the World Constructors' Championship, because there's a lot of stuff we need to keep tabs on. Because I could go on all day about why Americans should be in love with F1. It's a great time to give this sport a try. You know what? I'm going to talk about what I wanted to talk about first. Then we'll get into the World Drivers' Championship, highlight that stuff, and show you all the key components leading up to this weekend. And I know I'm going to say a few things that may not be 100% true or correct or fact-checked, with quotation marks, I will say, about the deal involving Michael Andretti, who owns Andretti Autosports in multiple functions of motorsport around the world, including the likes of Formula E and supercars, and I think Extreme E, if I'm not mistaken. I have to double check that as well. But the point I'm trying to make is that Michael Andretti, an avid businessman, he did time as a driver in IndyCar, very successful, did a year in Formula One, was not so successful, came back, continued his success in IndyCar. Part of the Andretti racing family. Of course, his dad won the 1978 World Championship, being the last American to do it. Mario Andretti, of course, that is. But over the course of the last week, we were learning about rumors and possible deals that might have been done that include the likes of Sauber F1, which of course they run the Alfa Romeo racing team, and Andretti Autosport, which of course is one of the powerhouse IndyCar teams for years, owned by Michael Andretti. The driver in question is American driver Colton Herta. Colton Herta is, of course, one of the best drivers on the IndyCar grid and very likely to be a possible championship contender in all the years he competed in IndyCar. And if he stays in IndyCar, will be a major threat to the competition. Colton Herta, of course, is the son of young Brian. Not so young Brian Herta. Of course, I remember watching Brian Herta when I was young. But so the rumors that were out and from sources and whatnot were saying that a deal is done for Colton Herta to drive for the new Andretti F1 program. Now, whether or not it's true, there are a lot of loopholes to look around this, including super license points, which I think the system is a little bizarre if you really think about why you need so many prerequisites as if you're an already proven driver to get into Formula One. How many super license points you get for running each and every IndyCar season. All the paths you have to take and whatnot. Also, the business deal, of course, we're talking multi-million dollars here, even billions of dollars. Each car costs, for multi-millions of dollars. This is what Formula One is. And you either have to put up or shut up. We've seen teams try this world of F1 and just leave and say, no, this is not for me. We've seen engines, factory constructors try, like Toyota in the 2000s. We've seen how hard they tried to stay in the sport, but it just could not work for them. And, that recession thing happened and they just said, no, that's not it. And look where they're at in Le Mans. They're one of the powerhouses. I think they're fine where they're at. Porsche's fine not being an F1. Other manufacturers I mentioned. Ford, I know they've had an engine program. Chevrolet's had some talks, but GM never really took F1 to heart, I guess, as much as Ford did. But if the rumors are true, next year's roster for the supposed Andretti F1 team that would used to be Sauber Alfa Romeo from this year, for next year would be Colton Herta and Valtteri Bottas. Now, I'm the one to say to you guys, like, if you're going to ask me, hey, Joe, can you confirm it's true? First of all, I'm not in the garage. I'm just looking from the outside in, like most of you guys. I do have some access to people that know these things, but it's also not my place to go invade their space with the same question being asked them that 100 other people have already asked them. Why should I? Let the rumors and the stuff boil down to you. You'll find out what happens. Colton Herta is one of the best drivers, one of the best American single-seater drivers out there. And I think you can argue him, Logan Sargent, and even Joseph Newgarden. Yeah, Joseph Newgarden, two-time IndyCar champion. Who are we to ignore him? He should be an F1 too. Alexander Rossi, of course, he said, this F1's not for me. Goes right back to IndyCar, gets himself an Indy 500 win. First year in IndyCar. This is nothing new, seeing drivers, from IndyCar go to F1 and back, but we're talking about a whole team here. And usually Michael Andretti means business. When he wants to do something, there's no stopping Michael Andretti. We know that from the past. So I wanted to work out. That's my issue. Because right now, Haas F1's not working out, I'm afraid. if you look at Gene Haas right now in his business model, he's pretty much doing what most Formula One teams have to do in these days to keep their cars on track, to keep money flowing in. That is hiring drivers who have the money, who have the millions of dollars. Nikita Mazepin, of course, coming from a rich family, got himself in a lot of trouble in the offseason. Still keeps his ride. I mean, look at Uralkali. His father has a lot of business involved with Uralkali, and of course that's why he's on the grid. Like it or not, that's what they need to do to stay in the grid. I mean, Haas F1, they plummeted this year. Mick Schumacher, of course, the other driver of the team, had to find his way to get through to F1 as well. Not like it's easy on anybody's behalf, but this is what a Formula One career requires. And if you're not 100% into it, you're going to be shredded out of the sport. And one of my biggest wishes in my lifetime is, as an American F1 fan, and I know it's a tall order, but one day I want to hear that American national anthem playing at the end of an F1 race with the American driver on the top step of the podium, or constructor, whatever comes first. So, of course, the F1 fan in me is wanting it to happen, but we have to be realistic. It can't just happen. There's business contracts involved. There are loopholes and so many obstacles you got to get around to make your presence on the 20-car grid or 22-car grid, depending on if any more teams come through, from ground up in the next few years. Hopefully the next car configurations can help that, and maybe the spending gap for that they've had in the last 2-3 years for F1 can work out for everyone's favor, but it doesn't change the fact how expensive the sport is. Now with my little business talk out of the way, let's talk about the World Drivers' Championship standings. We got to remember, we still have 5 races to go. Max Verstappen has himself a 12-point lead in the World Drivers' Championship over Lewis Hamilton. 287.5 for Max. Lewis, of course, having 275.5 points. Valtteri Bottas sits comfortably in third right now with 185 points. Fourth place is Sergio Perez with 150 points, but he's got some competition for that fourth place spot. 1 point behind, of course, with 149 points is Lando Norris. Sixth place with 128 points is Charles Leclerc. An in-house fight for sixth in the World Drivers' Championship is between Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz Jr., who has 122.5 points. Eighth place with 105 points is Daniel Ricciardo. Ninth place, of course, Pierre Gasly, sitting at 74 points with his retirement, and so is Fernando Alonso with 58 points. Both drivers, of course, did not finish Sunday's Grand Prix. The World Constructors Championship, however, it's a matter of 23 points between Mercedes and Red Bull Racing Honda. 460.5 points for Mercedes and Red Bull Racing Honda with 437.5 points. And then it's a lot farther down, the number of points for third on back, and we have a battle for third. 3.5 points separate McLaren Mercedes, 254 points, and Ferrari, 260.5 points. Fifth place, Alpine Renault, 104 points. Sixth place, AlphaTauri Honda, 94 points. Seventh place, Aston Martin Mercedes, 62 points, getting 1 point from Sebastian Vettel. Eighth place, Williams Mercedes with 23 points, most points they've had since 2017. Ninth place, Alfa Romeo Racing Ferrari, 7 points between two drivers. And, of course, Haas Ferrari with a big fat 0. Yeah, that's what it is. And that's my next reason. Going back into the whole Andretti F1 rumor mill, that's why I want Andretti to be in F1. Because look at the American representation in Formula One right now. It's not the finest looking imagery of drivers and team and performance. It's just not working out. 5 years in, no points at all. a driver who made a lot of controversy in the offseason and the son of a 7-time world champion, who might likely would rather see himself in a different car than the one he's in. This is Formula One for you guys. And yeah, I know a lot of UF1 fans had to do a lot of explaining to your American friends on what it looks like because everybody's tuning into the US Grand Prix. That's just how it works. At least we get the off week and move on to Mexico City, where Max will have to face another challenge because he's, he knows how well Lewis does it in Ramos Rodriguez circuit. That's another story to be told. Does Netflix have a reason for the high interest in Formula One? Like it or not, the answer is yes. Of course they do. Netflix made the sport so much more accessible for the outside eye to understand and truly grasp what F1 really is. Got water. Doing this podcast, so of course you're going to need some water. European Le Mans Series. We're going to talk some sports cars for a minute here. We won't get into the W Series at Circuit of the Americas later in the podcast, but let's actually, we'll do it later. Actually, yeah, let's. We'll do it now. Let's do it because it was part of the Grand Prix weekend. But sorry for you sports car fans. I know I have to hold you up for another good 10 minutes, but a season ended. The W Series. The Jamie Chadwick show at Circuit of the Americas. Race 1 and Race 2. So about Race 1. Jamie Chadwick took the win. Of course, the two drivers from Britain, Chadwick and Alice Powell, were tied flat with the points going into the final weekend doubleheader. Chadwick wins with ease. Emma Kimi-Lainen in second. Alice Powell with the fastest lap. Third, she tried everything. Fourth place, Abby Pulling. Get used to that name. I like Abby Pulling. Getting that pole position as a part-time driver, mind you. Finishing fourth. I think she's a pretty quick driver and one for single-seater teams to look out for. Beatsky Visser in fifth. Jessica Hawkins in sixth. Sarah Moore in seventh. Naria Marti in eighth. Fabian Volvind and Miki Koyama were the top 10, the points-paying finishers. Race 2 was Jamie Chadwick with the cherry on top. Pole position and fastest lap with the win. She gets herself the 2021 championship in the W Series. I'll explain a little bit more about the points later. Abby Pulling second, another impressive effort for Abby Pulling. Emma Kimi-Lainen, double podium weekend for her. Sarah Moore, fourth. Beatsky Visser, fifth place in both races. Alice Powell tried everything, but had a struggling race too, and ended up finishing runner-up in the championship, sixth place in the final race. Belen Garcia in seventh. Naria Marti eighth. Ayla Agdrin in ninth, and Caitlin Wood took the final point. And for the second season in a row, Jamie Chadwick, 23 years old from Great Britain, your 2021 W Series champion. Of course, last year there was no W Series. Of course, she won 2019 and 2021. That's a back-to-back effort for Chadwick, and a very experienced career for such a young driver. And we'll talk about that and what the next season might look like. Of course, there were a lot of changes between last year and this year. Let me go through the final standings first before I lead into that. Jamie Chadwick finished the season with 159 points. Believe me if I tell you, she only finished outside the podium once, and that was the first race of the year. Won for 4 times. Alice Powell finished second with 132 points. Won 3 times this season and took home 2 poles. Emma Kimi-Lainen was the third place finisher, the only winner not to be from the United Kingdom. She won the Spa round, 108 points. Naria Marti in fourth, 61 points. Fifth place, Sarah Moore, 56 points. Fabian Volwind in sixth with 42 points. Abby Pulling only made 4 starts, 40 points for her. She's seventh in the championship, and then some drivers actually ran all the races this year. Bitsky Visser, 38 points for the Dutch driver. Irina Sidorkova, despite not being able to get into the United States and having to sit out the last round, did manage to get enough points to sit at 34 points and finish ninth in the championship. And Belen Garcia rounded out the top 10. By the way, all drivers except for, unfortunately, American Sabri Cook, who just had no luck this season, got points in the championship. This shows you that it was a competitive W Series. I mean, I didn't cover too much last year, of course, back when World Race Media was new. So was the W Series. And I'll be honest, the changes with the W Series in 2019, from 2019 to 2021, were pretty big. To go from supporting the DTM, from supporting the DTM, which of course is German Touring Car Series. I say Touring Car vaguely because they're not really GT3s, but it's for another discussion. From that to 2021 and being part of the World Championship weekend, Grand Prix weekend for Formula One, that's pretty huge. And really looking at this whole thing, there was a lot of progress being made in this W Series. And I know not everybody really was the biggest fan of it. And considering what the situation looked like for 2020, because 2020, was going to be a unique year. They weren't going to support all the DTM races. They were going to support F1 for just the American rounds last year. Of course, that was all wiped off with COVID-19. But 2021, it was a huge step up. Probably more expensive than supporting DTM races if you really think about it. Because obviously, they went from supporting DTM to supporting Formula One and now having to be traveling around the world in 2021. That's a big step up. Was this a good season? I think it was. And this morning we learned that the top two finishers in the W Series Championship, Jamie Chadwick and her countrymate and 2021 competitor foe, Alice Powell, were signed by the Ricard Mille Racing Team, which of course is a signature. I forgot the name, but yeah, Ricard Mille Racing Team, LMP2 team, signed them to test a prototype out for the next 2 weeks at Bahrain International Circuit, where the World Endurance Championship is holding the doubleheader at Bahrain, with this weekend the 6 hours and next weekend the 8 hours to close their season. I think it's a good move to see that the all-female team is going to hire the two best female single-seater drivers in 2021 to try out their LMP2 car, just to give them an opportunity to test some prototypes. But part of me also would like to see all the best teams out there give them a chance too. But then again, this is motorsports. Motorsports is kind of a business, and you really don't know what you're going to get. And everybody's going to be skeptical and say things about the W Series, but one constant is for sure is that we really got to see Jamie Chadwick show her truest potential. And I know she came from GT racing, so this is huge for her. She's gone from GT cars to single seaters, succeeded in both components of racing, from her times in GT3 to single seater cars in the W Series, which of course are Formula 3 cars. Now she gets a chance to test out her skills in an LMP2 car. That's not too far from single seaters when you look at the similarities to the driving styles that are needed to pilot these machines. So we'll see what happens. And congratulations, Jamie Chadwick, again. the championship, of course, under the Williams banner program. Now that can lead us into sports car racing. I think it's a better transition than holding that off to the end. One final time, the last dance for the European Le Mans Series took place at the Algarve circuit in Portimao, Portugal, the capital city of Portugal, for the 4 hours of Portimao. Let's take a look at how that race went. The sixth and final race of the 2021 European Le Mans Series Championship. How about United Autosports? I know last year they took the LMP2 world by storm, and this year they just were the little Doge and the big Doge, little Doge meme, which is just that's racing. Sometimes it happens to you. It happens to the best of teams, and I knew that Zach Brown and the guys over there would find a way to get out of that hole. Let's go through the results class by class. Of course, LMP2 class was won by number 22 United Autosports Oreca 07 with the drivers Philip Hanson, Tom Gamble, and Jonathan Aberdein getting the overall win. The only win for United Autosports this year. I know they were longing for one in 2021. They completed 130 laps. Only 6 cars finished on the winning lap of 130 at the end of the 4 hours. Second place, the champions. Of course, they clinched it in Spa, but got to finish it off on the podium. T21 champions, Team WRT, number 41, the Oreca 07, driven by Robert Kubica, Yifei, and Louis Delétraz. Gap was 21 seconds. Third place was the number 24, Algarve Pro Racing Oreca 07, which was the home team. They're based not too far from the facility and to do a lot of their testing at the track. Drivers, though, we had an interesting lineup of Sophia Flores, Ferdinand Habsburg, and Richard Bradley. Flores becomes the first female driver to stand on top the overall podium in the European Le Mans Series. Fourth place, number 65, Penny Racing, McDonald's-sponsored Oreca 07 with Julian Canal, Will Stevens, and James Allen. And fifth place overall was the number 26, G-Drive Racing Auroras 01 Gibson with Roman Rosinoff, Franco Colapinto, and Nick DeVries. Sixth place overall was the Pro-Am trophy winner for the race, number 37, Cool Racing, Oreca 07, driven by Alexandre Corgny, Nikolai Lapierre, and the pole sitter, Charles Milsey, who actually qualified the car on pole. Let's go ahead and talk about LMP3. Now, there was some controversy in LMP3. I'll explain why. Originally, winning the race was of course the number 4 DKR Engineering Duquesne M30 D08 with the duo of Lawrence Hart and Matthew DeBarboit. Unfortunately, a protest was filed by who else than their competitors, their foes in the championship. The Cool Racing number 19 program filed a protest that the headlight wasn't working on the Ford car, which is a penalty. I don't know why it is. I think it's a non-issue, but I'm not the stewards. The stewards make the final decisions, not me. However, the protest followed through, and their win was axed. They got a minute time penalty, pretty much simulating a stop and go, but at the end of the race, which threw them out into 4th place in the class standings. Was it enough for them to lose the championship in that penalty? No. They actually won it by 1 point, and I'll explain all that later. Let's just talk about the race order real quick. So I actually went to the number 13 inter-European competition, Ligier JSP320. drivers Adam Itiki, Martin Heap, and Ugo D. Wild. So good for them. A lot of young drivers in that list too, because then again, it's LP3. Second place was the United Autosports number 2 Ligier JSP 320. Of course, that car. Number 2 for this race was driven by Rob Weldon, Edward Calhope, and Wayne Boyd. Third place in class was the number 9 Graf Machine Ligier with Rory Penttinen and Matthias Kaiser. Fourth place, of course, like I mentioned, was the car that originally won the race before the penalty, was number 48 car engineer Duquesne. And fifth was number 42 Santelic Racing Ligier JSP 320. Of course, car 42 for this race was driven by Fabien Michal and Lucas Legere. Now, an LMGTE championship came down to 2 drivers or 2 teams, but it was won by Iron Lynx. Iron Lynx had a great year this year. Number 80, Iron Lynx took the win. Matteo Cresoni, they actually finished 25th overall, behind all the top LP3s, believe it or not. Completed 121 laps for them to win. Matteo Cresoni, Rino Mastronardi, and Miguel Molina, Ferrari factory drivers, putting a cherry on top of this year in the European Le Mans Series. Iron Lynx had a great year. They won GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Cup Drivers Championship. They won the 24 Hours of Spa. They've just been on fire this year. And here's another reason why. Finishing second in class was the number 93 Proton Competition Porsche 911 RSR 19 of, yes, actor Michael Fassbender. That name is the same guy you're thinking. Yes, Michael Fassbender. Felipe Fernandez Lazier and Richard Lates were in that car. Third place was the sister car, number 83 Iron Lynx Ferrari 488 GTE Evo. That's the entry they dub Iron Dames, the all-female lineup of Ryle Fry, Sarah Bovey, and Michelle Gatting. Fourth place, number 55, Spirit of Race Ferrari. Actually, they ended up finding a way to get to second in the standings, believe it or not, even though they weren't able to get the championship. They did manage to hop up one position in the end for the final classification. That, of course, those drivers being Spirit of Race, Matt Griffin, David Perrell, and Duncan Cameron, Ferrari factory drivers. And, of course, fifth in class was the sister car for Proton competition, the WeatherTech Racing entry, Porsche 911 RSR, with Cooper McNeil, Jimmy Bruni, and Christian Reed. So, unfortunately, of course, the number 88 Ferrari, they had troubles in the race. Francois Parada, Manuel Collard, Alessio Rivera just had misfortune after misfortune, and that was all she wrote. So let's talk about the teams, the final standings after 6 races of the European Le Mans Series Championship. And it's hard to believe it's over. Again, congratulations to WRT. First ever year in prototypes, they get themselves a championship. Let's look again at the final classification for the LMP2 drivers and teams. Louis Delétraz, 118 points. Of course, with Robert Kubica and Yifei, they win the drivers' championship. And, of course, the team winning the team's championship. Second place in the championship was United Autosports, 22 car, Philip Hanson, Tom Gamble, Jonathan Aberdein. Julian Canal, Will Stevens are third for the 65 Panny Racing car. Fourth place was Franco Colapinto, Roman Rusinov with GGI Racing. And, of course, fifth place was Nick DeVries because he didn't run all the races. So that's what it looked like. And, of course, fifth place in the team's championship went to Duquesne team, number 30. Yeah, that was a pretty good run for them. But let's look at the inaugural Pro-Am trophy for the European Le Mans Series. And, of course, let's pull that up. LMP2 Pro-Am and Pro-Am teams, new to the European Le Mans Series staple. Congratulations to G-Drive Racing. John Falb, who is about to be 50 this year, Rui Andrade from Angola, 122 points. They got G-Drive Racing number 25. Aurora so won the championship for LMP2 Pro-Am. Alexandre Coigny, Nikolai Lapierre were second for, of course, Cool Racing number 37. Then number 29 Ultimate was Matthew Lahaye and Jean-Baptiste Lahaye. They are related for the Ultimate car. Charlie Eastwood, Sally Ulick for Racing Team Turkey, provided by TF Sport. And Roberto Meri, 5th place, of course, driving the 39 Graph machine. So that's what it looked like in Pro-Am for the final standings. So take a look at LMP3 drivers and teams. Because of that penalty, Lawrence Horst still won the championship for DKR Engineering Duquesne, but it was by 1 point. Oh my gosh. Boy, that was close. They almost lost it, but the Luxembourg team still got it. Lawrence Horst, 105 points, but Matthew Bell, 104 points for Cool Racing with Nicolai Malini, Nicholas Cruton, Edward Calhope in 3rd, Robert Weldon, Wayne Boyd, the United Autosports entry, Martin Hape, Hugo de Wil in 4th, 67 points, the team that actually won the last race, of course, each Europal competition. And then the number 8 Graph entry was 5th, but 5th in the Drivers' Championship with Matthew DeBarbo, the co-driver to Lawrence Hort in the DKR Championship winning team. Now, in LMGTE, it was a little more organized, of course, than LMP3, as per expected. Drivers and teams trophy at the end of the 6 races, it was Matteo Cressoni, Miguel Molina, and Reno Mastronardi, 126 points for them, getting the championship. 126 points. Congratulations. David Perrell, Duncan Cameron were 2nd and 3rd, or 2nd in the standings because they were together. 89 points each for Spirit of Race Ferrari. Alessio Rivera, Emmanuel Collar, Francois Parado. Prey, of course, 83 points for them. But still not bad effort for them this year. Matthew Griffin in 4th. Of course, he was the co-driver for Perrell and Cameron. And then how about Michael Fassbender, Richard Leeds? 5th place for the 93 Proton portion. So that's it for European Le Mans Series this year. Likewise, the teams and drivers entered, most of them are on a plane heading towards Bahrain this weekend for the World Endurance Championship event that I will be talking about later in the podcast. Of course, there's a doubleheader in the FIA World Endurance Championship to close out the remaining races of the season, the 6 hours of Bahrain this weekend and the 8 hours of Bahrain next weekend. I'll talk about that later in the podcast during our preview segment. A lot to be looking forward to if you're a sports car fan. That's for sure. Okay, let's talk a little more about some of the other racing. We'll get to some ARCA. Let's do that. Final race of the 2020 ARCA Menards Series was won by Nick Sanchez. He fought hard to get himself a win driving for Rev Racing this year. It was the 2nd win for Rev Racing in the season. He only had to lead the final 2 laps to get it done, but he still got the win. Ty Gibbs, the 2021 champion, managed to finish 2nd in this race. He led 100. No, he almost led 100. He actually led 99. Congratulations to Ty Gibbs. Final standings in a minute. 3rd place went to Corey Heim, who led just 1 lap. 4th place, Drew Dollar. And 5th place went to J.P. Bergeron. Final standings for the ARCA Championship. And yes, again, of course, 19 years old. Ty Gibbs, driver for Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota, win the championship for 2021. I don't think many people expected Ty Gibbs to exceed the expectations in the Xfinity Series like he did in the few starts he was supposed to make this year, just to get some seat time. Now, no, he's taking the world by storm there. But he still followed through the ARCA season and brought him a championship. Fun fact, he finished off the podium just 3 times this year Daytona, 4th. Talladega, only DNF, 27th. And Elko, 4th. It's incredible. Final standings. Let's look at the top 10 in the final championship standings for 2021 in the ARCA Menard Series. Ty Gibbs, Corey Heim, Nick Sanchez, Tab Moffett, Brad Smith, Drew Dollar, Taylor Gray, D.L. Wilson, Kyle Sieg, and last year's West Series champion, Jesse Love. Owner's champion goes to Joe Gibbs Racing in a car prepared by Coy Gibbs and Toyota. So Chief Sodan, Ty Gibbs for Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota. Of course, Sammy Smith won the East Series championship for Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota. But one more race to go in the West Series to determine the West Series championship. We're going to talk more about that next week in the podcast. That's going to be something to look forward to. Overall, I think it was a great year. The West Series, or the main ARCA series, we didn't, of course, have too many contenders, but they come and go. Of course, it's more like a junior series for NASCAR. It was good stuff, though, I will say. All right, time to talk the talk for MotoGP and get that going. Leave it up to Marc Marquez winning the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. One of the greatest riders of all time, Marc Marquez for the Repsol Honda team, took the win in the third to last race of the championship, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Misano World Circuit, Marco Simoncelli, named after the late Marco Simoncelli, who this past weekend 10 years ago succumbed to a crash in the Malaysia Grand Prix GP event. Beloved by many Italians, the track was named after him. And of course, we got to see one more race for Valentino Rossi, one of the greatest riders of all time, also known as the Doctor, get one last outing. And he got points, too. Let's talk about the results. Marc Marquez took the win, his 59th career win in MotoGP. Paul Espargaro made it a Honda 1-2. How about Enea Bastianini, third for Ducati? Fourth place, Fabio Quartararo, world champion. We'll talk about it in a minute. Johan Zarco, fifth. Alex Rins, Alex Espargaro, Maverick Vinales, Luca Marini, and Valentino Rossi. How about Valentino Rossi in his last start in his home country? Gets a top 10 in points. Brad Binder, Michelle Pirro, Andrea Dovizioso, Franco Morbidelli, and Takaki Nakagami took the final point in 15th. There is, however, the retirement of Francesco Bagnaia, who was second in the championship, crashed out while leading in the closing laps. He had the pole position, fastest lap on hand. And that's how the championship came to a close. Let's talk about that for a minute. Congratulations to 22-year-old Fabio Quartararo. He is the 2022 MotoGP World Champion. He clinched it 3 races early. And I gotta say, that was a spectacular season for Fabio Quartararo. He becomes the first ever French rider in Premier Class motorcycle competition to win the World Championship, and is the 18th rider for the Yamaha factory team to win the World Riders Championship. Fabio Quartararo, just 22 years old of age. He's got a long career ahead. It's his third full season in MotoGP's Premier Class, and he's got a lot more to go, as we've seen with other riders before. Just an outstanding season that he's put together. Let's look at the standings, though, because some positions may change with 2 races to go. Francesco Bagnaia picked up only his second non-points effort this year. He's at 202 points. Third place, Joan Mir. Johan Zarco is 4th in the championship, and Jack Miller is 5th. Now, we still have the constructors and riders, team standings too. So, Ducati lead with 307 points. Yamaha, the manufacturer of the champion rider, 295 points. Suzuki jumped to 3rd without winning this year. They have 207 points, while Honda, winning the last 2 races, hopped to 4th with 198 points, and KTM are staggered in 5th with 190 points in the World Constructors Championship. Now, in the World Teams Championship, with 2 races to go, the Riders Championship team, of course, QUADRUPLEHEADER's Monster Energy, Yamaha MotoGP, they have a lead, but it's not too big right now. 364 points, kind of expanded after a double retirement for Ducati Lenovo team, where they sit at 351 points. 3rd place, Team Suzuki X-Star, 266 points. 4th place, Repsol Honda team, climbing up the ladder with 239 points, 1 point over Pramac Racing, the customer Ducati team, that have 238 points. Of course, the next race, we have 2 races to go. Next race will be round 17 of 18 on the 7th of November for the Algarve Grand Prix in Portugal. The Algarve Grand Prix will be at the Algarve International Circuit in Portimao, and the final race of the season will be on the 14th of November at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo in Valencia for the Valencia Community Grand Prix. That will close the 18-race World Championship. So still got a lot of things to fight for in MotoGP. But Fabio Quartararo was the man of the weekend. And a lot of people from France are avid fans of this kind of racing, and they waited a long time to see their country be the home of a world champion in 2 wheels, and we finally got to see it with Fabio Quartararo. And he's got a long career ahead. Let's see how it goes. All right, I think we're now in our second segment of the podcast, where we will discuss the races coming up this weekend. And we, of course, start with the NASCAR Cup Series, the Martinsville race, the Xfinity 500 at Martinsville Speedway. Let's dive deep into Martinsville Speedway and discuss the history of this race. Martinsville Speedway is a very interesting track. It holds a very unique, exclusive distinction as being the only circuit to have been in every single NASCAR Cup Series season since its first season in 1949. By the way, that was a 15-car race, which was won by the 1949 champion, Red Byron. Last year, of course, this year we had the winner being Martin Truex Jr., Chase Elliott winning last year. A win that really propelled him into a position to win the championship in 2020. Let's look at the history of this historic track. For most wins, Richard Petty won this race 15 times. Oh, we got someone. Danny's here. What's up, man?
What's going on?
Hey, man. I'll make you in. We're just talking about the Cup Series. So
as we're heading to the last race of the round of 8, which pretty much sends every driver in frantic mode if you're in the bottom 4.
And if you're not Kyle Larson.
Yeah, exactly. If you're Kyle Larson, you're pretty much just cruising along right now.
That is for sure. All right, let's continue on. I was going to just go through the list of the multiple winners. This list is so long, of course, because this is the only circuit to have been in every single season in the history of the Cup Series, 73 years and counting. Richard Petty, 15 wins, of course, holds that distinction. 4 wins over Darrell Waltrip, who won this race 11 times. Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson, who both drove for Hendrick Motorsports, got their 9 wins in that team. Rusty Wallace won 7 times. Dale Earnhardt, Fred Lorenz, and Kelly Yarbo, 6-time winners. Denny Hamlin has 5 wins at his home track. Jeffrey Bodine, 4 wins. These drivers have 3 wins. Harry Gant, Jim Pascal, Lee Petty, Ricky Rudd, and Tony Stewart. And with 2 wins, we have Buck Baker. Oh, and forgot Martin Truex Jr. with 3 wins. Then with 2 wins, Buck Baker, Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch, Bobby Isaac, Junior Johnson, Brad Keselowski, Mark Martin, Herb Thomas, Curtis Turner, Bob Wilburn, Rick Sway. It's like the history of NASCAR, pretty much. Let's look at the fall race now. Who has the most wins for a team in the fall race? Larson fans better be excited. Motorsports, 17 wins more than any other team. in this specific Martinsville race. 9 wins from the defunct Junior Johnson and Associates. Petty and Price has had 7 wins. Joe Gibbs Racing have 5 wins. Holden Moody 4 wins. Richard Childress Racing with 3 wins, and then these teams with 2 wins: Herb Thomas, Carl Keithkeffer, Rex White, Budmore Engineering, nor Korpskopf, Rochefort Racing, and Team Penske. Seems like a lot of teams have won multiple times in this fall race.
Yeah.
Manufacturers, look at this. There's a lot of manufacturers for this event in the fall race in Martinsville. Chevrolet won more than any other times. It's half of the Ford wins, 31 for Chevrolet, Ford with 15, Plymouth 6, Oldsmobile, Dodge, Toyota 4, Pontiac 3, Chrysler, Buick 2, and Hudson 1. Just looking down the list of this event. But we got 8 drivers. Of course, Kyle Larson's already into the championship 4. He won twice in the round of 8. Looking at the rest of the grid, Danny, I want to hear who do you think is going to win at Martinsville.
Truth be told, I think with Hendrick Motorsports, they've already been dominant in this round of 8. So I'm gonna have to give it to Chase Elliott. I know as much as Larson has won twice in the round of 8. I think that Chase Elliott would get this championship and he will contain his championship momentum going into Phoenix to get his second championship. As for
sure.
Yeah, as for Team Penske, if you're Ryan Blaney, you have to make something work because you're right above that cut line.
He could point in, but there's no promises at Martinsville. Just look back at last year. Anything can happen. But yeah. I think who's going to win this race again? I'm going to make it easy. Kyle Larson's going to win. He's going to find a way to win at Martinsville. He's checked every box this year.
Yeah, he has, man.
There's that. Let's move on to the Xfinity Series side of things and bring up the Xfinity Series event because their penultimate race is on Saturday for 250 laps at Martinsville Speedway. Of course, Martinsville Speedway had a long hiatus a few times in the Xfinity Series that ended last year, and now it's a fixture on the calendar this year. First race was part of the modernized Busch Series inaugural season, which was won by Sam Ard in 1982. Josh Berry won this year, while Harrison Burton won last year. Who has the most wins? Sam Ard 5 times. Harry Gant 3 times. Jimmy Hensley 3 times, as well as Tommy Houston. 2-time winners include the likes of Brent Moffett, Tommy Ellis, Morgan Shepherd, and Kenny Wallace. As for team wins in the fall race at Martinsville, only twice has a team won more than once, 2 times, including the likes for Thomas Brothers Racing and Whittaker Racing teams, no longer in the sport. As for fall manufacturer wins, best to drive a GM car, Pontiac 5 wins, Oldsmobile and Buick 3 wins, Chevrolet 2 wins, Ford and Toyota only have 1 win. Now, of course, with the round of 8 in the Xfinity Series, there's a lot to look at. I think you're more safe based off points alone if you're Allmendinger, if you're Cindric, because they're literally tied with 47 above the cut line, first and second. But then you go to third and fourth, +9 for Allgaier, +7 for Hemrick, and then -7 for Haley, -24 for Gregson, -40 for Brandon Jones, and -51 for Harrison Burton. Those 2 will likely have to win it outright if they want any chance of making the Final Four at Phoenix. Who's going to come out on top?
Oh, man. Truth be told, who is in that top 4?
Cindric +47, Allmendinger +47, Allgaier +9, Hemrick +7.
Ooh, dang, man, this is gonna be really tough. You know what? I'm gonna have to say Allmendinger, man. He's been on a hot streak in this championship run, in this round of 8, man. Truth be told, I think he's gonna get it done in Martinsville for sure.
He's good at these
As much
tracks. I
as
mean,
as
it's a double
much
hairpin to him.
exactly, and as much as I want to go with Allgaier, which he's kind of been treading a little bit, but I'm gonna have to give it to Allman, nigga, man.
Yes.
Like you said, he's really good at these tracks.
AJ, I think he can win it, but I'm looking at a bold one. He won it last year while he wasn't in the championship contention then, but he has to win it outright at all, or there's no Final Four for him. Harrison Burton at his home track will win at Martinsville. He's turned so many laps there in all kinds of cars.
Oh yeah. See, that's another one. He's won here in the trucks, and I think he might be able to get it done in Xfinity as well.
He did it last year in the Xfinity Series. I think he can do it again. All right, and let's take a look at the Truck Series because it's been a while since they had their last race at Talladega, but now it's Martinsville. 200 laps to close out their season. Of course, nobody is locked into the championship in this round of it. It's the closest battle of all the three NASCAR series. In fact, I'm going to go back and look for the championship. Yes, here it is. I think I found it right here for the Truck Series. Okay, here it is.
Right.
Yep, here it is. Okay, so this is what it looks like. John Hunter Nemechek is plus 36. Hold on. Yeah, let me go back and look at. Okay, so let's talk first of all about the race itself, and then we'll look at the points second.
Right.
So Martinsville, of course, they used to have two races on the schedule every year. Not the second year of having just one race on the schedule. Grant Enfinger won last year. This track has also been on the schedule, I think, almost every year in its history of the Truck Series because 1995, the inaugural year, was the inaugural race, and Joe Ruttman took the win. Who won for the most times? Well, Johnny Sauter, an active driver, one of the best short track drivers from the Midwest. 4 times he's won at Martinsville. Kevin Harvick, Dennis Setzer, and Mike Skinner are 3-time winners. And for 2-time winners, we have Kyle Busch, Matt Crafton, who will be in this championship contention, Denny Hamlin, and Bubba Wallace. Now, who has the most wins for the team in the fall? Drive for Kyle Busch Motorsports. They've gotten 6 wins. And then the rest have 2 wins. Roush Fenway Racing, Bill Davis Racing, they don't exist in the series anymore. GMS Racing and Thorsport Racing share 2 wins as well. I want to win a race at Martinsville in the trucks in the fall. Drive a Toyota. They've won 11 times. Chevrolet and Ford share 3 wins, and Dodge with 1 win from Jamie McMurray in 2004. What do the points look like? The points, see, John Hunter Nemechek is plus 36 above the cut line, but don't be fooled by the number. It's very close. Ben Rhodes is plus 35 above the cut line. Matt Crafton is plus 10. He's searching for a record-tying 4th championship. And Sheldon Creed, the defending champion, is plus 5 above the cut line.
Right.
Beneath the cut line, Stuart Friesen, who had to win his way in 2019 to get himself in the championship 4, which is what he did. He's going to be in that same position again at minus 5 from the cut line in 5th. Chandler Smith, who won, I think, the last short track race at Bristol, minus 34 points. Carson Hocevar, minus 37. And Zane Smith, minus 40. Might just have to win it outright. What do you got for this weekend?
Oh, man. Gosh, Zane Smith is definitely my pick. Like you said, he is definitely in a must-win situation. I think he might be able to pull it off. What do you think, Joe?
It's a tough one. This is probably the toughest one, but I'm gonna go ahead and take experience. This is experience at its finest. John Hunter Nemechek is going to win at Martinsville.
John Hunter, man.
It's class of the field this year.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say the same thing. John Hunter is definitely gonna get it done at Martinsville. He's got he's got the experience and he knows how to get around this track.
Absolutely. All right, two more series to cover. Let's first talk about sports cars, and then we're going to talk about supercars.
Oh man,
This is the first week back
yeah,
since July. Let's get into
it's a
the World
sports
Endurance
car
Championship
first.
first,
Yeah,
because we got to do a lot of refreshing for our supercars. So let's bring up the 6 hours of Bahrain. The race will be Saturday at 4 a.m. Eastern Time. I did the time converting. Ironically, that's going to be the same time as the first Supercars race back since July, because it's night over there in Sydney, so it's 4 a.m. our time as well. The entry list. I just got to find that. Just out of the Bahrain entry list 2021. I'm just gonna look for the entry list real quick, and then I'll send it to you, Danny. Then we can go into this
yeah.
one because of course, WEC website has to be all fancy. Just give
Yeah.
me the damn PDF. Okay, here's. I'll just go to the entry list changes. 32 cars will be on the entry list. 32 cars on the overall entry list for this weekend. Of course, the classifications for the championships.
And does these involve the prototype cars?
Yes, of course. Okay, here's the entry list.
Okay.
Just gotta pull it up. I'll send this here. Yeah, here it is. Daily Sports Car. Let's look at the history of this event. Of course, the 6 hours of Bahrain. Being on the World Endurance Championship for almost every year, it seems. Of course, it's a doubleheader because it's a filler race, the 8 hours of Bahrain. Being the normal fixture, that will be the week after to close the World Endurance Championship 2021, and we got ourselves 3 hypercars. We'll go class by class, make our predictions, and take a nice glance at the championship as there are 2 races remaining in the 2021 season. So yeah, last year we had Aikame Kobayashi and Jose Maria Lopez taking the win. First race was held in 2012 World Endurance Championship. It was won by Team Yost Racing and the Audi RT Ejuan Quattro with Benoit Trullier, Andre Latour, and Marcel Fatzer. Hard to believe 2 of those 3 drivers are retired.
Yeah.
Best most year by drivers. Mike Conway 3 times, and then these drivers all have 2 wins. Stefan Sarazin, Sebastian Blaney, Anthony Davidson, Kami Kobayashi was Jose Maria Lopez.
And that's all Toyota Gazoo. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 wins from them, 2 from Audi, and 1 from Porsche for constructors. In the overall count, well, let's look at Hypercar. We have 3 entries. Not surprised,
3?
but yeah, because a lot of the new ones are coming in next year.
Yeah.
Glickenhaus sitting out this one. Who's going to win this race outright?
Oh man, I'm gonna have to. You know what? I'm gonna have to say, with Toyota Gazoo making a dominating statement. With being all from last year, I'm gonna have to go with them again for sure. These guys know their way around this track, so with Mike Conway, Sebastian Buemi, and the other drivers, and Kobe Kobayashi, you know, those guys know to work their way around Bahrain. So I'm gonna have to say that.
Yeah. I'm going to say, as far as the entries are concerned, I think it's going to be another three-peat for them. I think they could win it again next week if it's going to head this direction. So I'll take number 7 for Two Gazoo Racing. They have their fun now because wait in 2-3 years' time, we're going to get a lot of new entries in that overall competing class.
And that's gonna make the class way more competitive.
For sure. Just give it another few years. We're getting there. All right, let's look at the LMP2 class. And now, by the way, I notice how I didn't ask who's going to win the race overall. I'm leaving that to the end.
Right.
LMP2 class, who's going to win that category?
LMP2 class. Ooh.
Got a lot of teams here.
Yeah, man. You know what? I think you should hear predictions first, and then I'll see who.
Yeah. I'm going with this operation. They actually came off of a European Le Mans Series win, so they're going to do it again. I'll take number 22, United Autosports, Oreca 7. By the way, all the cars are Oreca 7s, I just realized, for this event. And LMP2. The drivers, Philip Hanson, Philippe Albuquerque, who's one of the fastest drivers out there, and Fabio Scherer, a younger driver who's making his way through the ranks.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go the same route, man. Felipe Albuquerque is one of the best drivers out there, and with him being what's that team again?
United Autosports.
Oh yeah, United Autosports. I think they will be able to get it done this year for sure.
Good job, Pitbull. I'm sorry to interrupt, but let's give a big shout out to Pitbull. A round of applause because he is making efforts to save Palm Beach International Raceway.
Oh man,
and we're gonna tell corporate America to go somewhere else.
Yeah,
put their buildings elsewhere. We're gonna keep that raceway. We're gonna make sure it doesn't go anywhere. I mean, that place was opened in 1964. It was owned for a long time by the Moroso family. They cared so much about that track, and I would hate to see it go. Really.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess we both are going to take United Autosports. As for Pro-Am, we do have 5 of them that are out there, so keep an eye out for them too. They have some own incentives to fight for. Now in GTs, we have 4 GT Pros, 2 AF Corsa Ferraris, and 2 factory Porsche GTs. All the entries have 2 drivers per car. Who will take this class?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't really follow the Pro-Am category like that.
I was talking about LMGT Pro. I don't know why.
Oh, LMGT Pro. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go with the Porsche. What's the number again? 7?
You're thinking 90,
what?
91.
Yeah, definitely 91. Definitely 91.
Yeah.
You know, they've just been on a hot streak this year, you know?
Yeah. Jimmy Rooney's one of the best drivers out there. Richard Leeds. I wish there class more entries, but we know where GT racing is going to lead towards in the next few years for Le Mans. They're going to head to GT3 in 3 years. So enjoy LMGT while it lasts, I guess. That's all I'm going to say. LMGT though, the privateers, we do have 14 of those cars showing up. That's a pretty good number, and a lot of them come from the European Le Mans Series race at Portimao 2 days ago. These teams have a lot of interesting lineups, but the lineup I'm looking at, this one, is probably the one that's going to get the win. I believe the winning lineup will be number 54, AF Corsa Ferrari 488 GT Evo, Thomas Floor, Francesco Castellecci, and Giancarlo Fisichella. How about that? Veterans right there.
Oh man, F1 veterans Giancarlo Fisichella definitely want to look up. Definitely one to look out for sure.
Oh yeah. Usually it takes a lot of laps for those guys to separate on the track. That's for sure. Well, now that we got World Endurance Championship out of the way, one last question. There are only 3 overall competing hypercars. Who wins this race overall? Will we see a hypercar win overall, or because it is possible we can't see an LMP2 win outright?
Right.
The difference in speeds are actually very close. Just looking back at how Le Mans went, are we going to see a hypercar win overall or an LMP2 win overall? What do you think?
Oh man, I have to say, at that point that's definitely a tough question right there. You know what? I'm gonna have to say LMGT2 car win overall for sure.
That would be fun.
Yeah, that would be really fun to see.
Definitely would make storylines.
Oh, right?
I mean, it's possible for 3 cars in any race, regardless of the category, to have failures and be down the list. I don't think anything would be as bizarre as the 2015 Petit Le Mans race when a GTLM car won overall, but that's how racing goes sometimes. All right, now we can talk about supercars, and we're going to need a lot of refreshing here. So how is this going to work? And I just want to explain how the return to racing for supercars in Australia is going to work. What to look out for. So the championship, of course, leading up to July, mid-July of this year, Australia seemed very open, and I'm not going to get into that. I would love to ridicule a lot of certain political parties and all that, but that's not why we're here.
Yeah.
What I will say is that all of a sudden life stopped again in Australia in mid-July after the round in Townsville on the 17th and 18th of July. And we never got to see supercars again. And a lot of people even thought the series would be canceled altogether. I was afraid that could happen, considering how great the season was. And, of course, the Bathurst 1000, not happening in its traditional date this year because of these lockdowns. And but they managed to get everybody back to New South Wales, at least for a special deal that's approved to get the racing back going. So what we're going to have 4 consecutive race weekends at Sydney, super sprint format, starting this weekend on the 30th and 31st of October. We get 3 races. Then the next weekend, we get rounds 23, 24, and 25, week 9. Then week 10 for Sydney weekend 3, we have rounds 26, 27, 28. Weekend 4 at Sydney will be the last one at the circuit for this year, with rounds 29 and 30. Then after that weekend on the 21st of November, they get a week off and travel to Bathurst for the 2021 edition of the Bathurst 1000, which will be held on the 5th of December in summer conditions. And that's going to be fun for the drivers. Maybe not so fun for the teams, but at least we get the series back. And 2021 lives on, just later in the year, not as we expected.
Yeah.
So what does the championship standing look like for anyone that needs a refresh? Shane Van Gisbergen has an outstanding lead of 1926 points, while Jamie Whincup in his final full-time season is second with 1650 points. Cam Waters in third with 1514 points. Chaz Muster in fourth with 1506 points. And Will Davison, the veteran, fifth with 1505 points. In the team's championship, after 4 months of hibernating, Triple Eight Race Engineering lead with a huge lead claiming 3576 points, while Dick Johnson racing their first year since the end of the Team Penske alliance, 2751 points. Third place, Tickford Racing, racked 3 wins this year, 2588 points. Walkinshaw Jordy United in fourth with 2415 points, and Team 18 in fifth with 2047 in the points board. Now, some of the other changes that you need to note, in case you guys haven't paid attention to supercars lately, is that the new Gen 3 car configuration that was supposed to be announced in debut for next year, for 2022. They had a rumor starting halfway through the year,
Right.
which would include the GM team switching to Chevrolet for the Camaro for the first time. That has been pushed back to the start of 2023. So next year we're going to get one more full season of the current generation supercar. That means one more full season with Holden in 2022 for your Holden fans. And to that, I'm not going to complain. I'm going to enjoy every moment while Holden's still there.
Yeah.
Even though they may not have factory support because they're not there anymore. It's still
and
just...
Chevy rolling in.
Yeah. So, race 1, race 2, race 3. I'm going to say that race 1, okay, I did the time converting, or at least I took it from the website.
Right.
Time conversions for supercars. So, in case you guys want to watch the action, race 1 is at race 1 of the weekend is at 4:10 a.m. Eastern time, just when the Bahrain 6 hours begins. So I might just have to skip watching practice and qualifying just to get up for the start of that race because it's night over there.
Right.
Then race 2 and race 3 will be daytime over there, which means it's easier for us. 9:45 p.m. for race 2, and race 3 will be at Sunday at 1:25 a.m. for Sydney week 1. Now, let's look at some of the other things about the Sydney weekend. The history of this race. You know, last year's winner, Scott McLaughlin, he won both weekends outright.
Yeah.
×2. John Bell won the first running of the Sydney Super Sprint in 1992. Who has more wins than anybody else in this event? Mark Scaife with 6 wins. Then Marcus Ambrose, Craig Lounge 3 wins. Glenn Seaton, Shane Van Gisbergen, and Scott McLaughlin 2 wins. As for team wins, of course, the Holden Racing team, 7 wins. Dick Johnson Racing, 5 wins. Triple Eight Racing Engineering, 4 wins. Stone Brothers Racing, 3 wins. And Glenn Seaton Racing, of course, with 2 wins from Glenn himself. 13 wins from Holden, 12 wins for Ford. No other manufacturers won at this event. Shows you how competitive the 2 Australian favorite brands are.
Yeah.
Okay, since there's 3 races, I want to make it quick because I know the World Series is coming up, and I think we owe you guys to be off the air before the World Series begins. So we're going to get the best average finish in all the 3 races at Sydney. I know it's an easy answer considering what happened in the races this year, but who do you think it's going to be?
Oh, man. You know what? I'm going to have to go with Red Bull Holden Racing. It's just pretty much easy as that, man. You know, with Van Gisbergen and Wayne Cup,
Yes.
which is pretty much just his last year. I think Red Bull Holding is definitely gonna get it done for this whole weekend, whole race weekend.
I think Shane Van Gisbergen has what it takes. I would love to see Jamie Whincup get another win before the end of this year. That would be, awesome because it's like his farewell tour,
Man.
He probably won't be able to get that 8th championship just by how far ahead his own teammate is. And Shane Van Gisbergen is one of the best drivers ever in the 21st century to come out of New Zealand. He's just
absolutely
phenomenal. I mean, look at what he's done this year. He's won the New Zealand Grand Prix, a single-seater race. That's a crown jewel event in Auckland. He ended up winning the 6 Hours of Bathurst this year, becoming the first ever driver to win the the 3 current Bathurst Crown Jewel events: the Bathurst 12 Hours, the Bathurst 1000 last year, and the Bathurst 6 Hours. And he swept both of the Bathurst races. He won the first. He won the first 6 races in a row. The guy's on fire.
Absolutely, man.
Guess New Zealand, how small of a country they are, they still have enough space to produce some of the best drivers.
Exactly.
All right, I think this is a good stopping point for the end of this podcast. One more thing, guys. Who do you guys all think is going to win the World Series? Live chat, tell me, and Danny, you and I. Houston
man.
Astros, after 4 years of their controversial World Series win in 2017, or the Atlanta Braves?
I'm going to have the Braves, yeah. I think the Atlanta Braves will get there first.
I don't know. I want to see a 7-game series. I want to see the best World Series that you can get.
Yeah,
it's October baseball. That's fine.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I think we're going to let you all go. It's going to be 2 hours, but thank you all for joining in this podcast. I know it was a different, weird date and time, but at least we got you guys able to watch the World Series, and so do us. So, for my partner, Daniel Ford, thanks for joining in. Saving me from going this entire episode solo than myself. I'm Joe Laney Pavlon. And sign off. See you guys next week for episode 135. Take care.